Say this, when I first was diagnosed, it was difficult for me to talk to God.
Talk about something happy for a second. Now, how did you get into making cookies, Maiesha?
I started making chocolate chip cookies with my
Yes,
cousin when I was
yes.
like 10
From
years old.
scratch.
Yep, in the kitchen, me and Adrian, yep, making cookies when I was 10 years old. And I kept making the chocolate chip cookies every single year. I used to make them every single year for Pastor Parker for his birthday. I made him cookies every year. And when I first got back to Michigan, my friends, every time I came to Michigan, when I would come to visit, they wanted me to make the chocolate chip cookies. And so I did. And they're like, you should start selling your cookies. They pushed me to sell the cookies. I was not interested in selling cookies. I did not want to do that at all. I started doing it, and then I got into the custom cookies, and that's when I was like, okay, I like this. I love doing the customs.
A lot of work.
Love it.
I mean,
it's one of those things where you have to love it to do it. It's like being an educator. You're not going to have some luxurious lifestyle as an educator. You're not going to make a bunch of money. You have to do that because you love doing it. And with the cookies, I do it because I actually genuinely enjoy doing it, even though it is a very time-consuming process. Doing 12 custom cookies is going to take me at least 24 hours. It takes a full 24 hours just for 12 custom cookies, but I enjoy doing it. I love doing it. I'm not doing it for free, but I do enjoy doing it. I do cookies now just because I operate under something called the cottage food law. So I can't sell anything that could be perishable. My friends do often request my cheesecakes because I have a large variety of cheesecakes that I make. So once I'm able to expand, then I want to start being able to do the cheesecakes again.
Let's talk about the beginning of this. How did you find out? Because you were diagnosed pretty young, and typically we go and
very young.
I heard a doctor say yesterday that they should start at 35, but typically they say 40 is when you start getting your mammogram. So how did you find out that something was going on?
It was accidental. I was getting ready for bed one night, and I just said, honey, I think, talking to my husband, I feel something. I think I feel a mass or something. And he immediately was like, well, you should probably get that checked out. And so I'm like, okay, I will. And it just so happened that next morning, both my daughters had a doctor's appointment at our primary care physician. So we went to the appointment, and I just mentioned it to him that I had found this mass the night before. He said, okay, well, let's get you in as soon as we can, which that was a Friday, so they couldn't get me in until that next week. And originally, both he and his assistant, the physician assistant, neither of them really thought it was anything because I was only 35. So they were just like, and for a lot of women, which is something that I want to make sure that I reiterate, is a lot of younger women, especially African American, we have dense breasts. So it is very easy for us to miss something. It's easy for the doctors to dismiss it because we already have dense breasts. So they think, oh, that's nothing, because that's how they were with me. They thought it was nothing. They're like, oh, I just think that your breasts are just really dense. I don't really think it's anything, but we'll send you and get a mammogram anyway. And I'm like, okay. And of course, I've never had one because I'm 35. So I never had one, went and had that done. And I remember him telling me when I went, okay, you're going to go get this mammogram, and they'll do that. And if they think that there's something suspicious, then they'll want to do an ultrasound as well. So when we finished the mammogram and they said we need to do an ultrasound, I already knew that they had seen something because he had already told me that. So they did the ultrasound, but again, this is at the end of the week. I think this was a Thursday when they finally did the mammogram and the ultrasound. This was a Thursday. And no, it was another Friday. It was that next Friday. and they did the ultrasound. And I remember the ultrasound tech, it was a woman. She went out and got the doctor, and then they both came in together, and they asked, do you have anyone here with you? And of course, when you hear that from a doctor, you're immediately like, what is going on? So I said, yeah, my husband's here. And they went out to the waiting area and they got him, and they came in, and they still didn't really tell me anything. They just said, we did see some suspicious things and we need to do a biopsy, but it's Friday. So I had to wait. I had to sit with this the entire weekend, and I had to wait. And then that next Tuesday, I'm driving. We're actually on our way to Atlanta because our youngest she started having seizures when she was around 8. So we were on our way to Ohio to her neurologist. It's about half an hour drive from us, not far. And that's when they called me with the results on the way to her neurologist appointment, saying that the biopsy results show it is positive. The original diagnosis was, I think they said stage 2, but after doing all the initial scans, then they came back and said, well, we saw something on the PET scan, we need to do another biopsy. And so I went from stage 2, curable, we can get this, to stage 4, terminal, in a 3-week period. And that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to take in.
Tell us how your relationship with God has helped you kind of get through this.
I'll say this. When I first was diagnosed, it was difficult for me to talk to God. It was difficult for me to pray in that time, because there's a lot, like, as I said before, it's a lot. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to think through. And in that moment, I was not in a position, like, my heart was not positioned to receive anything. It was very, very difficult for me to talk to God during that time. I talk now all the time. My relationship has really flourished and evolved, but I think it's more so because of the leadership that I'm under. Shout out to my pastor, Jeremy Caldwell. He's amazing. He was already a friend, though. I've been friends with my pastor for about 20 years. We've been friends for about 20 years, and his wife is one of my best friends. We've been friends since like the 6th grade. So she's one of my best friends. And they did a lot of praying for me and a lot of encouraging both myself and Antonio, encouraging both of us during that time. And it's their prayers that pushed me to get back into my prayer life. It was their prayers that pushed me. And once I was able to get back into my prayer life, then my relationship evolved. And I was able to make peace with what was happening. I was able to talk to God about, okay, what's going on here? What is it that I'm supposed to be learning here? And being able to sit still and know that he's going to take care of me in this, and I'm not going to fall to pieces. No, you're not going to be sick and frail and unable to do anything. I'm going to keep you through this entire process.